Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made this shaker cake topper. I made it for my daughter's birthday. I used Cricut Design Space. This is a full tutorial from beginning to end. On Cricut Design Space, get a shape and make a circle. Make the circle the dimensions that you want your cake topper to be. So this is going to be your back circle. I'm going to go with 15 by 15 approximately. You're going to duplicate to make another shape and duplicate again to make another circle and duplicate one more time so you have got 4 circles. This is going to start the base of our shape. But I'm going to explain to you why we need the different circles. So firstly, I'm going to make the border around the perimeter of my cake topper. So I'm going to make one a different color just so I can see it and place it in the center of one of the circles. This will be your border around your cake topper. So once you've got it where you want, you select all and then you can go to align and center. This make sure it's inside of the center. Select all and slice. So what this will do, it will cut out a hollow circle shape. And this hollow one is the one that we are going to be using as our border for our cake topper. I'm going to change it to purple just so I remember what color card to cut it on. So it will sit on top of my cake topper just like this. The other 2 circles that we used, I can just delete them one by one or select all of them and delete them because they will no longer be needed. So I'm left with my 2 circles and my shape. And I remembered I do need a 3rd circle. So now you should have 3 circles, all the same size, plus your hollow shape, which is your 4th circle. This step is totally optional. I'm duplicating my hollow shape and I am turning it into grey because I am going to cut it on some grey foam. This step, as I mentioned, is completely optional and I'm going to explain to you why when I do actually put the cake topper together. And I'm aligning it just to make sure it all fits. And then one of my circles, I'm going to change to a grey colour. This grey colour is going to represent my clear acetate that I'm going to cut out, the transparent acetate for my cake topper. You can make a note down on what you're going to cut on each one. So now here's my image. You can pick whichever image you want. I did just get this image from Google. I'm going to bring it to the front and put it on top of my cake topper where I would want it to go. So I'm just sizing it till I'm happy with the size, and this is going to be a print and cut. And then I'm adding as many images as I want to my cake topper and sizing them, always bringing it forward so you can see exactly where it would go. And I'm just going to size it to where I would want this spider to go on my cake topper. I did find this spider under the images section on Cricut Design Space. I'm adding a slight offset to most of your images that are not going to be stuck down, that you're just basic cut. Add an offset to it so you can make a 3D effect. I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm adding about 1, 2 or 3 offsets will be okay. And then you'll be able to have a 3D type cake topper. So I was a bit all over the place with this tutorial, but the back circle I changed to purple because I just remembered I want to cut it on purple cardstock. It's going to be the same as the purple hollow circle. Doing this just reminds me which type of card to load onto my Cricut when it is time to cut. So here it is, my last image that I'm going to use. As always, get your image and then bring it to the front so you can size it and place it onto your cake topper where it wants to go. I'm going to add some text to this image. So just clicking on the text key and searching for the font that you want to write on your cake topper. I wanted quite a bold but kiddie font, so I decided to go with this one that is coming up. This is the one that I decided to choose. It's kind of a comic type font. It looks really childish and nice and comic-y. This is the type of theme I wanted to go for. So I just typed in the words that I needed and then spaced them and aligned them exactly where it needs to go in the image. So remember, your Cricut cuts true to size, so you need to make sure everything is the size that you need. So I want to put the words inside of this speech bubble here, and once I'm happy with how the words look, I'm just applying a little offset as well, and I'm going to show you a very quick way to apply offset with your font without using glue, because when you've got very small font it can be tricky to use glue. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do when it comes to cutting this on Cricut Design Space. So now it's about like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. So just place everything where you want it to go. Remember to send your images forward if they are behind your shape, and just sizing everything perfectly to where you want it to go. I added this number 7, but when I actually put together my cake topper, I didn't want to include it. So you may put things that look nice when you have it on the computer, but when you print it off for real, you may not like it, and you're always free to change your mind with your cake topper as much or as little as you want. So once you're happy with your design and your placement, select your main basic image, and then you want to create an offset. This offset will be the background of our cake topper, which will put everything together. So here you can see I selected all and offset. It's a very, very small offset. I'll show you what it looks like, just like this, where you can see I will place my image on top. I want to get rid of these holes, so I go to hide all contours, and then now you can see I've got a nice background which will be the base of my cake topper. So now I'm almost ready to cut. Just a quick recap, I've got my purple cardstock here. The next one will be my acetate, and then I've got my purple cardstock at the front, which is my hollow circle, and then the light grey will be my foam. Once you're happy with everything, you select to make it. My print then cut will come up first. So here you don't need to mirror anything. The only thing that I will need to mirror is my text, because I'm going to print my text on heat transfer vinyl. With my Cricut, I'm not sure why it does this, but it automatically populates a large mat. Even though I do have a large mat, I'm using a regular size 30.5 centimeters by 30.5 centimeters. So I do go in and change it. But there is my font. I'm going to mirror this because I'm going to print it on HTV. Now I'm happy with my print and cut. I go to continue so I can get this ready to be printed on my printer. Once I've sent to printer, always turn system dialog on and then press print. Here I'm going to change it to photo papers glossy 2. This allows me to print on my glossy sticker paper, and I'm going to rear tray because I have a back tray which makes printing a lot easier. And then I click on print. So print out my stickers, and then I've cut them now with my Cricut. So already printed out. Just pull it onto my Cricut Design Space, my Cricut Explorer Air 2, and I am cutting it out. My setting is on Iron-On Plus. You can use cardstock or cardstock plus depending on how thick your sticker paper is. I'm going to put my sticker paper that I'm using in the comments and the description, and it is the Koala glossy sticker paper in case you want to try it out as well. So next up, I'm cutting my acetate. This is what I used, A4 clear acetate on this cut setting. Afterwards, I cut my foam on Distress Craft Foam, more pressure settings. The foam option is only optional. You can use double-sided like foam tape instead, which I think would be a lot easier, but I didn't have it on hand. So here everything is cut out. I've got my Iron-On Shania Faith words. You can see if I used cardstock for this, it would be so difficult to weed. So that's the reason I used Iron-On. And this was the offset that I created, if you remember, on Cricut Design Space. And here you can see my purple card and the rings. I made an additional ring as well. And there's my foam. So I'm going to show you how I put all of these together and the equipment that I use. This is my first time doing this type of cake topper, guys. So There were a few mistakes I did make. I will let you know as I'm going through this. So hopefully if you do make it, you don't make the same mistakes that I did. And there's my acetate sheet. So this was the background that I created with my offset, which will be my base for all. And these are my stickers that cut with my Cricut machine, and I'll peel them off once I'm ready to use them. But first thing I'm going to start is by putting this iron on onto my cardboard. So I've cut the black cardboard and I'm using my Cricut mini press on the second or third setting. I'm going to use the third because I'm using metallic heat transfer vinyl, and I just want to make sure it adheres to the cardstock. So I prefer to do this than using glue. Using glue would be very fiddly for this type of font. So I'm just going in with my heat transfer vinyl and my Teflon sheet. Once I've got that on top, I just run my Cricut mini press over it, applying quite a bit of pressure just to make sure the heat transfer vinyl does adhere to the cardstock. And this method was just so simple and so easy. I did let it cool down for a bit, maybe a couple of minutes, to make sure it was really cool. And I moved on to my other project just to make sure it cools down. So here's the foam that I cut out, and I'm going to put it on top of my glitter because I want a nice glitter background on my shaker cake topper. I'm going to be using hot glue to stick this on. You can use other methods, but I think hot glue is much more secure. So I just start by dabbing the hot glue around the foam, going ever so slowly because this glue gun I've got, it's really sticky. I think it doesn't get as hot as it needs to be because it is like very tacky. But I'd recommend if you have got a more superior one to this, definitely use it. I prefer to just put my card on top than lifting up my foam and getting my hands on the hot glue. I prefer to just press it on, align it as best as possible, and then press it down with a bit of firm pressure. You can see it's still very sticky, but you know, there's probably a better way to do this. If you guys do know a better way, please do let me know in the comments. You can see I've even got some hot glue stuck on there. This started to turn like just a mess, but I managed to salvage it in the end. I pressed down on the ends to make sure everything is secure. If there are any gaps like here, I will just go back in with my hot glue and secure those gaps, because if there are any gaps, all your shaky bits you put inside will fall out. So just make sure you go around and check for any gaps at all. So once the gaps are secure, you can start filling your shaker cake topper. You can put beads in there, sequins, whatever you want. Like go to the craft shop and get a few different gems, whatever you need. So I thought I'll put some of these beads inside. This was actually my daughter's bead set, which she doesn't use anymore. It was like a bracelet set, but she's made so many bracelets and she's actually quite tired of it and she didn't want it anymore. So I said, oh, perfect. And the color scheme goes with the cake topper that I want to do. Some of the pieces were quite big, so I decided to take them out. I was just checking to make sure that my acetate will fit on top and it won't bulge out too much. I also added some of these sequins. I got these sequins from Hobbycraft, which are perfect to use just to add that extra little bit of bling. So before using the acetate, give it a good clean with some alcohol wipes and then let it dry. This is to ensure that the acetate is very, very clear. Once you've done this, you have to be very careful how you touch it, that you don't get too many fingerprints on there and make a cloudy vision. I'm just shaking it off so it can dry a bit. Put all of your sequins and beads in the middle of your shaker cake topper just to ensure that no glue gets onto any of the beads. So now I'm happy with the placement. I'm going to go in with my glue gun. The way I do this to make sure it is aligned, because it is very easy to move, is I just tack down the first part of my acetate and the foam. Once that bit is tacked down, I go around the edges very slowly and just tack down all of the pieces. You must ensure there are absolutely no gaps. If there are any gaps when you do this, your beads and your sequins will fall out. So take your time, as you see I'm doing, and press down firmly so it doesn't lift. So once you've done the first half, you can go on to the second half. You can see I'm just working bit by bit. I'm not going through the whole thing all at once, just in case anything doesn't stick. It doesn't matter if it looks messy because it will be covered. That's the main reason why we had to make that hollow circle, to cover the hot glue so it cannot be seen. If anyone has another method that they use, I would love to know, even though I did like this method. But if there is an easier one that will save me more time, yeah, just pop it in the comments and let me know. So here I'm finishing off the rest because it's secure, it's in place, it's aligned. I know exactly where it should go. And then I just press it down, not too hard, but just firmly. So now that I'm done, I'm just going to give it a good shake. Make sure nothing is dropping out of any of the seams. It looks pretty good to me, pretty good. Now I'm going to show you the rest, how to start putting this together. Like, I was actually in love with it at this start here. So I made a circle here. I didn't show this one on Cricut Design Space, but I made another circle, one that is slightly bigger, and I'm going in with my double-sided tape. Now I don't have to use the hot glue because I don't need that real firm seal. So with this hot glue, sorry, not hot glue, double-sided tape, it makes it so much easier for me than using glue. If you want to use glue, go ahead, that's fine. I know there's some very quick drying glues that can be used for these types of projects. So once that's all done, I stick it into place. I noticed as I stuck it down, it wasn't 100% aligned. I felt like I could see some of the foam. I don't know if it was just me being a bit paranoid, but I could slightly see the foam. But, you know, it's my first attempt. There's so many things I would have done slightly differently, like make my circle slightly bigger, just so that if it's not aligned, it will cover the foam at the back. So with the purple one, I will do the same thing and just use my double-sided glue all around and then stick it on once I am happy with the placement. So it's coming together very nicely. So I thought I want to do a double border. So I love how this type of double border looks compared to a single border. So down firmly as always. And then next I'm going to move on to my background. So not my background, this is like my back base. So you need to make sure you do have a bit of card because you need to have that sturdiness. And I noticed it wasn't stuck down as well. There can be some bits that are missed out. Just go back in with your double-sided tape and stick it down. Now onto one of my favorite parts is the stickers. How I do love stickers. So here I just wanted to take it out, peel it off. This is the speech bubble where I'm going to put the name. So because we printed off this base, it makes it so much easier on where to put it. You just slot it together like a little puzzle and I stick that down firmly. As I mentioned before, I'm using the koala glossy sticker paper. I will put it in my description. So here's the heat transfer vinyl. I'm just peeling it off, making sure that it comes off as slow as possible. So if anything does lift, I can go back in with my heat press and press it down. So once I've taken off the protective film, I use the heat press, the mini heat press, to do one final press with my Teflon sheet just to make sure the heat transfer vinyl is adhered. I'm going to put that here, but I want to give it a 3D type effect. So I'm going to use these foam squares to give it a 3D type effect by sticking down the foam squares and then placing the text on top. So once I've stuck down the foam squares, I just peel off the backing because these are like double-sided. It's that double-sided tape but more foamed up, and it gives that 3D effect. So I just use my Nikapa weeding tool to take off the background, and that should be good. Sorry, not the background, to take off the backing. So I just place it where I want it to go, and when it is held up, it will have that 3D effect. You can put two of the foam pieces on top of each other to give a more of an effect. So here's the spider that I cut out, and I'm going to use the foam pieces to do the same thing that I did before to give it that 3D effect. So I'm going to stick the foam pieces on the bottom and the top of the spider, and I peel off the sticky tabs on the back using my weeding tool, and then just basically align them up. This will add a nice 3D effect. Depending on how much of a 3D effect you want, you can add more layers. And then I'm going to put the silver one on in exactly the same way, just to add that extra bit of sparkle onto this spider. So now I have all my pieces together. Look at that silver bling. It looks lovely. I just position everything where I want it before I finally stick it down. I decided I want to put the spider on the edge, and then I'll put the stickers in a certain place as well. Just hold it and visually try to imagine how it will all look till I'm happy with it, and then I can stick it down where I want. So I've stuck down my sticker right here. I didn't want it in the middle, I wanted it a bit up, and I thought my spider would look better on this side. So depending on how you want it, you can just stick it down. You can use hot glue. I'm just going in with one of these foam pads again to add an extra 3D effect to it. So this is coming on really nicely, and I'm really happy with my first attempt of making this shaker cake topper. I'm not finished yet. There's a few more things I want to add, and I'm actually going to try this again with a different design, and everything that I didn't do great this time, I'm going to, refine it. That's how it goes with crafting. Refining your practices, practicing and getting better. So on the back, you can just put hot glue if you want, but I'm going in with this tape again because I want to add as much 3D dimension to my cake topper. And then I just place it on top. The reason I like to use the foam pieces is because there's wiggle room. So as you can see, when I stuck it down first, it wasn't straight. So I have a chance to lift it up and pull it back down where I need it to go. If I was using hot glue, usually once it's down, that's it. There's no wiggle room. So I definitely prefer using these foam strips because there's wiggle room. Look at this, guys. It's coming together so nicely. The last part I have to do is put on my cake sticks. So these sticks, I ordered the wrong size. I'm so upset. They were too short. I don't think I looked at the size when I ordered it from Amazon. So I had to kind of double them up to make it longer when I did finish. But in the description, I'm going to put the size of the correct one. These are the short ones. If you're making something smaller, these ones will be perfect. But for these big style cake toppers, the short one won't really work. So I just go with my hot glue gun. It doesn't really matter if it's a bit messy. If you want to cover it up, you can get a backing, so that same offset, and stick it over the cake sticks if you don't want people to see it from the back as well. I absolutely love how this came out. This is something you're going to try. Let me know in the comments. Or if you have any tips for me, because this is my first time doing it. I'm not an expert on doing these type of toppers. Let me know as well. She absolutely loved it. Thank you guys for watching.